Thank you very much for visiting my channel. If not difficult, like and subscribe to my channel to always be aware of events. Thank Maria Avdeeva, a security analyst who visited Rakov after it was liberated 3 days ago. Precision missiles took out the fixed bridges along the Russians' rear over the Dnipro River, leaving them effectively stranded. This left Russian lines in the Kharkiv region poorly defended and without many strategic reserves to plug any holes if the Ukrainians broke through, which they did. The Ukrainians amassed tanks in the Kharkiv region, which Russian commanders took no notice of, and then launched a classic lightning attack to smash through Russian lines. But to really explain why the Russian lines collapsed so spectacularly, one has to look at the quality of the troops manning them. It is reported that the lines around Kharkiv were defended by slave soldiers, forcibly conscripted within the breakaway DPR with very little will to fight. These soldiers reportedly abandoned their posts and their equipment to flee, some apparently disguising themselves as civilians, and the Ukrainian offensive becoming more of a manhunt. There are reports of hundreds killed and thousands taken prisoner by the Ukrainians. And finally, the Russian army has long been hollowed out by corruption at every level, which leaves its equipment unmaintained, its troops poorly equipped and morale at rock bottom. Ukraine's unexpected advance in the east came as a surprise, as it is just 1 week since Kyiv announced the start of a long-awaited counterattack to reclaim Russian-occupied terrain hundreds of kilometers away at the opposite end of the battlefront in Kherson in the south. Told the Mail on Sunday that the 50 remaining residents were in very bad condition, after spending 6 months, terrified, while hiding in basements. Phillips O'Brien, professor of strategic studies at St. Andrews University, said Kyiv has exploited Russia's movement of its strongest forces to shore up defenses in Kherson. This is big, he said. Once troops start being pushed back, then it can be hard to stop. If Russia cannot mobilize more forces, they are in serious trouble. Even one Russia-appointed stooge official in the Kharkiv region, Vitaly Ganchev, admitted, "The very fact of a breach of our defenses is already a substantial victory for the Ukrainian armed forces." Earlier Saturday, the British Ministry of Defence told reporters that Russian forces were likely taken by surprise by the speed, scale and ferocity of the Ukrainian assault. The sector was only lightly held and Ukrainian units have captured or surrounded several towns, the British military said, adding that the loss of Kupiansk would greatly affect Russian supply lines. The Institute for the Study of War, an influential US-based think tank, said it appeared that disorganized Russian forces were caught in the rapid Ukrainian advance. They cited social media images of apparent Russian prisoners seized in the advance around Izium and surrounding towns. The Institute for the Study of War said Kupiansk's recapture would severely degrade Russian ground lines of communication. Russian social media channels published footage of traffic jams formed by cars fleeing the fighting. They could hear the generators providing electricity for the Russians, but they had no power, no phone connection. Admitting they included panicking collaborators who feared reprisals from Ukrainian police or partisans. In another setback for Putin, pictures emerged last week of an officer on his knees after being captured. He is thought to be Lieutenant General Andrei Sychvoy, the highest-ranking Russian officer taken prisoner since the Second World War. Alexander V. Danilyuk, an intelligence expert and head of the Center for Defense Reform's think tank, said, "We are witnessing a major turning point. You can expect some more surprises soon." Moscow's defense ministry published video footage that purported to show reinforcement troops rushing towards the Kharkiv region. But there is increasing dissent from prominent pro-war and nationalist figure. Their village is almost totally destroyed and they have had no idea what has been happening. After 7 months of repelling Russian offensives to a stalemate, what explains Ukraine's sudden, tumultuous success on the attack? It appears to be the product of a brilliant strategy concocted by Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, who organized the defense of Kyiv. The first phase was to lure Russian troops to the southern Kherson region by announcing a forthcoming counteroffensive to recapture the regional capital. It was a big special disinformation operation, said Taras Berezovets, press officer for the Buin Brigade of Ukraine's Special Forces. Meanwhile, our guys in Kharkiv were given the best of Western weapons, mostly American, he said. Among these were U.S.-supplied HARM missiles, which were designed to take out Russian air defense radars, paving the way for Ukrainian air support. Once the Russians had massed around 30,000 troops around Kherson to ward off the counterattack.